Coming up on 60 Minutes.
Tory's bravery on that day, we are eternally grateful to him for that.
17 hours of terror.
Tension was just terrible.
The day that changed Australia forever.
Everyone just wanted them out.
The horror, the bravery,
Kind of lost a bit of hope.
and the loss
This did not just happen to us.
of the Lindt Cafe siege.
It happened to everybody.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
For the worst of reasons, December the 15th, 2014, is now indelibly seared into Australia's psyche. It's the day terrorism came to the heart of Sydney. Lone gunman Haron Monis, claiming allegiance to Islamic State, took 18 innocent people captive at the Lindt Café. For 17 hours, he wreaked havoc before being killed by police. 10 years on, what still hurts so much is that two of the hostages, Tory Johnson and Katrina Dawson, also died. Tonight, we remember their sacrifice, pay tribute to the survivors, and recognise the many men and women who worked so hard to end the siege.
There are days, I'm sure, when you feel like this is so darn hard. But you know, don't be discouraged. Rather look to the effort that you've made and the progress that you've made.
Louisa Hope never thought she'd end up being the star of events like this.
Hello, friends.
But here at Rotary's Inspirational Women's Awards, Louisa's story of survival is an important one to tell.
So as we think about what can happen as a result of something so bad, so awful for all of us, some good can come.
10 years ago, she walked into the Lindt Café on the morning of Monday, December 15, thinking it was just another day.
I lived that very normal, self-centred, self-focused sort of life. You never wake up thinking that you're going to be involved in something that's going to change not only your own personal life, but our whole country. This did not just happen to us. It happened to everybody.
That morning, Louisa was one of 18 people taken hostage inside the cafe by a gunman, Haron Monis, threatening he had a bomb in his backpack and 3 others planted around the city. Under constant threat of death by the self-appointed terrorist, the hostages had to fight to stay alive for 17 excruciating hours. A decade on, the terrifying event has influenced and traumatised not only the surviving hostages, but also those working to save them, who continue, even now, to find it difficult to reconcile the loss of 2 lives, Tory Johnson and Katrina Dawson.
I think for everyone in Sydney, it's a very familiar sight, and I think that kind of adds to the horror. You know, how could something like this be eventuating in a place that we all know?
The New South Wales Premier at the time, Mike Baird, knew the Lindt Cafe well. With Parliament House just 1 block away, Lindt was a popular meeting spot. As Premier, the ordeal of the 17-hour siege was a huge responsibility for Mike. But what took him by surprise afterwards was a sudden, heart-wrenching guilt that even now he hasn't managed to shake.
Everyone just wanted them out. And, you know, for it not to happen, there's a deep grief in that. And I think the impact is felt by everyone.
It's a traumatic feeling that Mark Davidson understands well. Recently diagnosed with early-onset Parkinson's disease, Mark now chooses to live on this isolated farm in the hope the tranquility here will help him forget the tragedy of the siege. As chief sniper for the New South Wales Police that day, Mark blamed himself for not pulling the trigger when he had the chance to kill the gunman.
Normally, you kill someone, you have guilt. If they're not meant to be killed or it was an accident or whatever. This is sort of the same in reverse, where someone's doing a bad thing, you had an opportunity to stop it and kill them, and you didn't do it, and that's what you have to live with.
For the hostages who survived, they're still living with the ordeal.
Starting that day and going at the end of it, I think it was two different people.
With a career now in finance, Joel Hegarty is exactly where he always planned to be. But on the day of the siege, he was just 21 years old and working casually at the Lindt Cafe. As he struggled to make it on time to work that morning, young Joel had no idea he was about to face a horrifying event that would shape his future life.
I think I lost part of my innocence, really, and my naivety of how the world works and how dangerous things can be.
Within weeks of the siege ending, 60 Minutes reporter Liz Hayes spoke to many of the hostages, hearing for the first time their incredibly brave stories.
And I guess that's what occurs to you.
Paolo Vassallo worked at the Lindt Cafe and was good mates with the cafe manager, Tori Johnson.
On the day of the siege, it was a regular day for you?
Yeah, it was a normal day. Came in, Tori opens the door for me. He greets me like he always does. And big smile, even for a Monday morning. Everyone was happy.
You can see here how close we were.
I can.
Harriet Denny was the mother hen of the Lindt workers, a close-knit bunch who all adored their boss, Tori.
He was a good manager, huh?
Ah, the best I've had. But he was my friend, not just a manager.
On that morning, she remembers serving cafe regulars and best friends, lawyers Katrina Dawson and Julie Taylor, just before 9:30.
People that you knew so well in terms of coming into the cafe, you knew exactly what they would have before they asked.
That's true. Julie would have a weak skim latte, and Katrina would have a dark hot chocolate with skim milk. And they would always share a piece of sourdough toast with 2 butter and 2 Vegemite. Always. They like their Vegemite.
Louisa Hope was sitting nearby with her mother, Robin.
You know, it's funny, when Katrina came in, she actually sat next to us and she accidentally knocked her shoes. And my mum, you know, she says to her, "Oh, be careful, you wouldn't want to scuff your beautiful shoes." And so then we had a little chat about the shoes and how lovely they were.
Former tennis pro John O'Brien had dropped into Lindt for a coffee after getting his eyes checked.
I saw Monis and Tori sitting at the table there, quite calmly talking, and there was nothing unusual going on. It was very quiet.
Man Haron Monis was violent and troubled. Not only had the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation investigated him 4 times, he'd also been charged with being an accessory to the murder of his ex-wife and was separately facing 40 sexual assault charges.
My mother had noticed him and she was saying, "What's that man over there? Who is he? What's he doing?" She intuitively clocked him.
I just saw Tori facing him, bright red, hands down, sad and frightened.
Selena Winpay was only in the Lindt Cafe after a last-minute decision to do some Christmas shopping. A decade ago, she spoke about the moment Monis instantly turned a normal day into one of absolute fear.
I looked at this man, these were just nanoseconds, and I looked at this man and he looked at me. He almost gave me a wry smile.
Move! Everyone move!
And he started yelling out to everyone to move, move, move.
Put your hands up!
Raising his sawn-off shotgun, Monis warned everyone in the cafe he had a bomb in his backpack.
This is an attack on Australia by the Islamic State.
When he took out his gun and said that we're all hostages and that Australia was under attack, in that moment I thought, oh, that's it, we are all dead.
I was in shock at that time, really, trying to figure out, is this real? Is this a prank? Surely no one's walking around a shotgun in Australia, right? I've never seen a live gun outside of movies or video games. So seeing that, pulling it out, seeing everyone's reaction, was probably the most scariest bit.
Former New South Wales Premier Mike Baird still remembers clearly the moment he was told a terrorist event had begun in the city.
I was pulled aside by my security and they said, look, there's a terrible incident underway and we're going to have to go straight after this to the crisis centre because, you know, it's a terrible siege. And, yeah, I think at that moment, the world just kind of dropped away. My heart was beating and I didn't know what lay ahead.
Put your hands up.
Coming up,
You got a bunch of people held against their will by an armed gunman who's saying he's going to blow everyone up if they don't do what they're told.
a city under siege.
I keep my hopes up and I'm walking the streets over.
When the Lindt Cafe siege began, Mike Baird had the top job in the state. As New South Wales Premier, he was here at Parliament House, less than a block away from the 18 hostages being held at gunpoint.
Everyone in the CBD has been past the cafe or into that cafe, and I think that, you know, built the personal connection and the impact that people felt.
The gunman, Man Haron Monis, had claimed he planted 3 bombs around the city. So for Mike, there was no time to waste.
We are being tested today in Sydney. The police are being tested, the public is being tested, but whatever the test, we will face it head on.
There were school excursions all over the city, so trying to get them safe and trying to get sort of workers out of the city, trying to make emergency space available in the hospitals if needed, and obviously ambulances on standby. So it was a huge amount of logistical sort of exercise early on, but on the second side, as a human, it's just horrifying to think of, you know, those poor people that are stuck in this situation. And you know, I think that you can't separate humanity from sort of roles and responsibility.
While the Premier was being briefed on what to do, officers from the New South Wales Police Tactical Operations Unit were rushing to the city. One of them was Chief Sniper, Mark Davidson.
I packed my gear and started heading to work in the car, and my daughter rang me, pleading with me not to go to work. Of all days not to go to work, today should be that day. Yeah, so that's still something I think about.
As everyone on the outside was assembling, the oldest hostage on the inside, John O'Brien, was trying to stay calm in the chaos.
Don't move.
There was just pandemonium with Monis ordering everyone to stand up, face the windows, close your eyes, put your hands up in the air. It was just an awful scene inside. The tension was just terrible.
You, go to the window.
Lindt Cafe worker Joel Hegarty was filled with dread.
One part of me thought he was going to go around and start shooting people, and he didn't want everyone to have their eyes open when he did it. Yeah, it was quite scary. Just that fear of the unknown, not knowing what was going to happen.
I could see everyone from across the road with cameras just looking, and I knew my family would be watching. That was hard.
Just 1 month after the siege, Liz Hayes spoke about that terrifying moment to hostages Harriet Denny and Selena Wynne Pay.
So as we were standing there and people were getting very, very upset and crying, and I thought he was going to shoot us in our back. I thought he was going to just start shooting.
While you were standing at the window?
I didn't know what he was going to do.
While the terrified hostages stood in the windows, 6 New South Wales police snipers had set up in buildings surrounding the cafe. Mark Davidson was in the Westpac Bank, diagonally across from the cafe, silently waiting to take that shot.
You got a bunch of people held against their will by an armed gunman who's saying he's going to blow everyone up if they don't do what they're told, and you're there to stop that. So, of course, you want to intervene as quickly as possible to, save people's lives. That's what we're there for.
Through his telescopic lens, Mark was forced to watch the frightening real-life drama play out in front of him. It was a close and very disturbing view of what the hostages were going through.
You can sort of count the freckles on their face. Yeah, it's quite vivid and real. Very in your face, if you can put it that way.
Within hours of the siege starting, John O'Brien was already plotting his escape.
I had to get out because my wife was bedridden, couldn't stand up. She had Alzheimer's. And my youngest daughter suffers from anxiety and depression and has bipolar. So I had two people who were relying on me every day of the week. It's not a question of will I get out, I've got to get out somehow.
Escape was also on the mind of fellow hostage and father, Paolo Vassallo.
I couldn't take it any longer in there. I couldn't. I just really couldn't.
You, manager.
Paolo was upset his good friend, the cafe manager, Tory Johnson, was stoically staying put.
The gunman didn't like Tory, did he?
No, he didn't. He had it in for him from the beginning, and he kept referring to him as manager. He sort of implied that you'll be the first one to get shot.
Under constant threat like that, Tory must have felt the burden.
Yeah, he did, and Tory was brave, he was. I knew in his eyes that he was going to stay there to the end, and I had no doubt about that.
He was like the captain of the ship.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, he was, that's right. He wasn't leaving.
Some of the hostages were trying to reason with Monis. Accomplished barrister Katrina Dawson was drawing on her courtroom skills.
I remember Katrina very well. She was absolutely wonderful, trying to calm him down and talk some sense into him.
But even Katrina couldn't change Monis's mind. So at 3:35 p.m, 6 hours after the siege began, John and fellow hostage Stefan Balafoutis took a punt and made a run for it.
He was kneeling down behind the tables and chairs, and I thought, well, he looks pretty tired to me. I said, now is the time to make your move. Stress, absolute stress. The worst stress I think I've ever experienced. I wasn't sure if the doors would open. I thought they may have been electronically locked, but they weren't. So, hallelujah, we were able to get out.
I saw John go through, and I thought to myself, well, it's either going to be now or it may be never.
In a split second, Paolo too went for the side door he knew was unlocked.
I ran, yeah. I didn't turn around. Me running, there was a chance I could make it, but there was just as much chance I could have got shot.
Hostages escaping historically in training anyway is enough to trigger an emergency action forced resolution or an arrest. So I think I speak for most of the guys there that were on that day, that when a hostage escaped, they were waiting for the initiation to go and stop the siege by force. That's what I was waiting for. And I probably never will understand why the decisions were made the way that they were, but that's out of my hands. I can't change that. Can't change the past.
Deputy Commissioner David Hudson heads up the New South Wales Police Counter-Terrorism Unit. Having started in the police force at 18, he spent the last 43 years learning how to improve policing. He admits mistakes were made during the siege.
When you look at 2014, the environment was changing significantly, very quickly. ISIS had declared a caliphate in Syria. ASIO had increased the threat level in Australia to probable. I think our inability to adapt to the situation and the evolving environment put us behind the eight ball. You know, that's a memory that this organisation will always have. That's a scar on our organisation, which will be there for perpetuity with the loss of innocent life.
Coming up.
I don't think anyone senior in the police wanted to make the decision and be accountable for it.
Katrina Dawson's brother upset that police didn't act sooner.
And now they're accountable for not having made the decision.
In the centre of Sydney, the historic building that housed the Lindt Café remains. But these days, Joel Herat's former workplace is now an upmarket bottle shop. Inside, the centrepiece of the store is an embedded large glass vase, always full of flowers, a memorial to Tory Johnson and Katrina Dawson. For Joel, coming here brings back so many memories of that tragic day.
I think some part of me always will be left in that place. It just made me realise how quickly things in your life can turn. You know, working at a cafe and just doing my daily business and then getting immediately thrust into a seared situation. That kind of trauma and anxiety does stay with you.
Angus Dawson's trauma comes from knowing the circumstances of the death of his sister, Katrina. She was caught in the crossfire between Man Haron Monis and police at the end of the siege. Why police didn't storm the cafe sooner is something Angus and his mother, Jane, will never understand.
I don't think for a second we think that it's an easy decision when something like that happens and you're faced with the threat and someone taking people hostage and claiming there's a bomb. But that's why we have people who are trained professionals to deal with it. And in difficult situations, you need leadership and you need judgment. And I think we didn't see leadership or judgment.
A decade on, Angus believes police didn't want multiple deaths, so they chose to wait.
Senior police, I think, latched on to a very false assumption that they wanted to be true, which is that it would end peacefully. They left a lot of frontline police who'd trained all their lives to actually step in and make a difference in situations like this with no signed off direct action plan, no trigger identified, and as a result, they waited and waited and waited.
New South Wales Police Deputy Commissioner David Hudson is head of the counter-terrorism unit. He argues if police had charged into the cafe earlier, there may have been even greater loss of life.
The police commander and the negotiators and all the advice that was provided believed that there was a distinct possibility that the issue would resolve itself through negotiation and all hostages would be able to be released unharmed. And that was always the intent. But unfortunately, as an organisation, we didn't meet that.
After the first hostages escaped, Monis threatened that he would kill the others.
They just ran away just then.
Lindt worker Jared Hoffman explained to Liz Hayes how dangerous it became.
I killed 3.
So he says, all right, if anyone else runs, I'm going to kill someone. Deal? And so everyone's like, yes, deal, yes.
He wants all of you to take responsibility for the next person who runs because there will be a death.
Yes. If someone else leaves, someone dies. It's an eye for an eye. So the stakes just got a lot higher after those first 3 left.
Louisa Hope remembers how, instinctively and through sheer desperation, the hostages worked together to defuse the situation.
We quickly all sort of went into the same place with how to try and keep him chilled and on the down low and try to keep him from thinking, who he's going to kill.
While constantly fighting for their lives, 2 of the cafe workers, April Bay and Ellie Chen, were planning another escape. Jared and Harriet Denny were the only ones who could see what their workmates were up to.
Ellie and April are under table 40 hiding.
Yes.
You see that?
Yes. So he couldn't see them. Basically, where everyone else was sitting, they couldn't see them.
I remember us standing next to Jared and I said, "Where's April and Ellie?" And he looked down and I followed where he was looking and they were hiding underneath the booth next to the exit.
And then I looked over a little bit later and I saw April was standing up and she was pulling the deadbolt down on the side door.
In a flash, the young women escaped.
These are live pictures coming into our office right now.
Broadcast across Australia, everyone was heartened to see another 2 out.
Wow.
But incredibly, inside the cafe, Monis was unaware he'd lost more hostages. In fact, he never once counted how many prisoners he'd taken.
What happened?
Monis said, "What happened?" or something along those lines. But everyone said, "No, nothing's happened. What's wrong, you know?" And so he was not able to distinguish what had happened.
As night fell, the remaining hostages started thinking they were on their own.
I kind of lost a bit of hope. Trying to think, what are they waiting for now? It kind of does feel like we've been abandoned here. If you were inside that cafe, it's hard not to think of that way. We weren't there for 20 minutes or an hour. We were there for more than 10 hours at that point.
Outside, the 5 escaped hostages were revealing crucial information to police. None of them could remember seeing wires coming out of the bag, nor a detonation-type device in Monis's hand, both key indications there was no bomb. John O'Brien remembers clearly his conversation with the officers.
I just told them that I didn't see a wire coming out of his backpack.
It was the same for Paolo Vassallo.
You told 3 police officers you saw no evidence of any bomb.
Yes, I clearly told them that there was no wires on there.
And you were quite detailed in conversation with,
Yes, I was.
with police officers.
I told them that the bag was moving very lightly. It wasn't sagging from the back, and
Nothing attached to his hand?
No, there was nothing. No doubt at all.
Up next, sniper Mark Davidson's greatest regret.
If we had all the information that was available on the day, then I believe a shot or shots would have been taken to end it at that time, and they would have been successful.
The moment he wished he could have ended the siege.
Man is a savior.
Moving to this quiet farm in southern New South Wales has helped Mark Davidson in his recovery from the post-traumatic stress he suffered after the Lindt Café siege. Now Mark has a new issue to contend with, early onset Parkinson's disease.
That's life. You always get curveballs thrown at you and you need to find a way to deal with it and keep moving forward.
I have walked the line before.
But the former New South Wales Police Chief Sniper is still haunted by an image he saw on the night of the siege. 10 hours after it began, at 7:30, Mark saw the gunman on his own for the first time. It was the perfect shot for Mark, but there was one big problem. Police still thought there was a bomb in the gunman's backpack.
And that's what we're worried about. Him pushing a button and blowing the whole place up and killing everyone, all because of our actions. That's sort of something you don't want to be part of, you know, causing the death of everyone.
So Mark took this photo and sent it to the police command post. He then called them for an update on the bomb threat.
When you were here on the night, you were up here, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
In 2019, he spoke to Liz Hayes about that call.
I needed to justify taking a shot.
What was the reply?
That information was not available.
And how did that impact your decision-making?
Well, there was some doubt in my mind as to whether I was justified in shooting him then, so I didn't.
But incredibly, there was new information from the most valuable of sources. All 5 escaped hostages had told police crucial information that suggested there was no bomb. Yet this vital knowledge was never passed on to Mark.
If we got reliable information from hostages that had escaped before 7:30 p.m, that there was no wires coming out, he had no button to initiate a bomb in his hand, then I would have made a more concerted effort to shoot him at 7:30, personally, because that's what we were there to do. Had we taken that shot and successfully ended the siege, everyone may still be alive apart from the gunman. Why it never got through to the people that needed to hear it, I don't know.
Witnesses' recollections of incidents can be unreliable based on the stresses and everything else that they see. Certainly that evidence or that information was taken on board, but that is insufficient evidence to exclude the fact that there was still a possibility.
New South Wales Police Deputy Commissioner David Hudson explains officers in charge on the day put more credibility on the eyewitness account of one policeman who at the very beginning of the siege claimed he saw wires coming out of the backpack. So despite the escaped hostages suggesting otherwise, police continued to believe man Haron Monis had a bomb.
That assertion had been made and had not been discounted to a point where it could have been excluded from the decision-making that needed to be made by those police in charge that day.
Finally, after 17 terrible hours, the beginning of the end. A third dramatic escape during the one moment Monis moved to the back room away from the cafe.
I just said, I'm going to go get help. And so I pushed on this back door and I just ran.
We're going. When the door was pushed open, without even thinking, I just ran.
As soon as Jared opened that door and bolted, we all instinctively got up and just made a beeline for that barricade exit.
I'm at these front doors, like the sliding doors, and I put my fingers between them to like pry it open because it's not opening. And so I look over my shoulder for the emergency button and I just slam this button.
And that's when he came out and started shooting. I remember bullet whizzing sort of an upwards trajectory and hitting the exit sign sort of above me and then that falling down.
We have counted 6 people, so that takes the total number of hostages freed to 11.
Left with just 7 hostages, Louisa Hope says Monis was agitated and hysterical.
He was so panicked, he didn't know what to do. And he said, right, you stand here. And he placed me on his left side. And then he called my mother, come over, stand on my right side. So we're either side of him. And then he calls to Tori.
You, over there.
Kneel down and put your hands on your head. And then all of a sudden, bang, Tori went down with his hands still behind his head. He had killed Tori. And, yeah.
After Lindt manager Tori Johnson's execution, police finally stormed the cafe.
I was just thinking, what's this noise? It just did.
Selena Wynn-Pay described the moment as pure chaos.
And before I knew it, bang, 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 lights, things smashing. It just did it, and then and glass and everything. I was lying like this. And I thought, why is it taking so long? Is he not dead yet? He's gonna get up from this?
In the moment, I thought, oh my God, we've lasted this whole day, but we are going to die now.
When the shooting finally stopped, 22 rounds had been fired and Monis was dead. In the crossfire, hostages, including Louisa, were injured. And tragically, Katrina Dawson was killed.
She shouldn't have died, you know, really, she shouldn't have. And, yeah, that's just... Yep, that girl should not have died.
Nothing can compare you for that. I mean, you know, what words did you say? Everyone wanted so much to get them out, and to have that loss of Toria and Katrina, I mean, that I'll never lose that.
Coming up.
So we reviewed everything from cradle to grave.
The long-term impact of the siege.
It's just impossible not to feel guilt.
It's been very difficult because it's very alive every day, the whole trauma of it. But you learn to sort of focus on something good.
Life can be cool when it takes.
The Women's College at Sydney University was Katrina Dawson's happy place as a young adult.
She did live life to the fullest extent that you could possibly imagine.
After she died, in their grief, Katrina's family set up a foundation to keep her spirit alive in the place she loved.
Hold you again.
And her mother Jane started work on this magnificent stainless steel sculpture for the college courtyard. A decade on, the Katrina Dawson Foundation has given 24 inspiring young women the incredible opportunity to live on campus at the college.
The sort of purpose is to find and fund and mentor exceptional young women.
This morning, the family, including Katrina's brother Angus, are catching up with some of the women who have benefited from the foundation.
The most important thing I think about the foundation is that it's an extension of the sort of person Katrina was, and it's reflecting qualities of our daughter or sister.
You just see them mingling and they're just wonderful stage of life. They've got so much opportunity ahead of them, and we sort of can just see the possibility and the potential in them, which is really exciting. I often imagine when we're there, you know, Katrina would love to mingle in that crowd and see them.
In the aftermath of the siege, Sydney woke up on Tuesday, the 16th of December, 2014, in shock, mourning the deaths of Katrina and Tori Johnson. But for the New South Wales Premier at the time, Mike Baird, there was a real concern that Monis's terrorism would create division in Australia.
The remarkable thing about that time was actually the opposite happened. And those flowers that came to Martin Place and the families and the people that came to put them down, like there was beauty, there was love, and there was unity. You know, when actually the script says the exact opposite should happen.
In early 2017, Mike Baird resigned as Premier, but the siege had left a heavy personal burden.
You know, my mum, actually, who's no longer with us, but she was a counsellor and a psychologist. And at the time, she said that she thought, you know, I was impacted. I did have some form of PTSD. And I ignored it. And there was, you know, other things to get on with and be busy about. But, you know, I should have listened.
His mum was right. Mike was eventually diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Probably in my mind, there's a sense of I shouldn't be affected that way. Like, you know, I was just there as an observer and, you know, trying to coordinate a response. Yeah, you're the Premier, you're sort of overseeing the crisis, and it's just impossible not to feel guilt. Yeah.
A coronial inquest began the year after the siege. Hostages and victims' families were hoping to get some answers, especially Angus Dawson and his mother Jane.
The inquest was meant to be a search for the truth, and it was just ducking and weaving and covering your ass. You know, my image of it is a room full of lawyers who are all trying to stop questions being asked. None of them wanted any investigation or any exploration of what had happened and what went wrong.
And one of my big questions is what's changed? How have they used this terrible situation to inform the way they handle things now? And it would have been nice if we'd been told, if we'd been assured that there had been some change, that the loss of these 2 lives hadn't been just a blip.
The New South Wales Police Deputy Commissioner David Hudson is adamant things have changed.
So we reviewed everything from cradle to grave in relation to what we do in a terrorist incident. The way we needed to respond to incidents changed. The way we needed to deal with intelligence changed. The way we needed to deal with individuals changed. But that's no comfort for the families of those deceased hostages.
On the coast steady for the end of day.
It was at Katrina Dawson's funeral that the Deputy Commissioner made a promise to himself.
I remember sitting there in that room and looking at the anguish on the family, looking at the anguish on the friends, and hearing Katrina's story and just thinking to myself that we could not let this happen again. We should not be in this position again.
Show the light to those with darker days.
Former New South Wales Police sniper Mark Davidson is now using his experience of post-traumatic stress from the siege to focus on assisting others deal with similar problems.
I'm certainly honoured to be helping emergency services and the way that we are, because it's helping people improve their lives. It's just something small to give back on my part, because I've been through some similar circumstances that they're going through now, so that's a good thing.
At 92, John O'Brien is still plagued by memories of what happened.
Always in the back of my mind every day for the last 10 years. I just think of just how lucky I was on the day.
What do you think about these leaves on this arrangement?
Looks great, as long as it works.
10 years on, Joel Harat has just married Eunice Astaris, a fellow Lindt Cafe worker he started seeing just after the siege.
Everybody's got a ghost.
You can see more exclusive coverage of the wedding in New Idea, out tomorrow.
Just got married, yes. It was a great ceremony, great wedding, it was a great day. We had the old sort of Lindt crew, would call them, come there, and I used to have them there, you know, for myself and Eunice on our special day. Yeah, it was very important for us.
For me personally, it does not go away, but it is the thing that pushes me to continue to find the good, or to find a good out of that awful situation.
Louisa Hope's mother, Robin, also survived the Lindt Cafe siege. She died 6 years ago, but in 2017, she told her daughter about a special moment she had with Tory Johnson. At 2 a.m, Robin was sitting next to the Lindt Cafe manager, as she had done for almost the entire 17 hours. When suddenly his colleagues finally escaped, she almost pushed Tory off his seat.
She said, "Oh, I kept saying to Tory, you go, Tory, you go. I'll be okay here, you go." And then she said to me, Tory said to me, no, I'll stay here with you. And I remember so vividly my absolute shock, because in that moment I realised that Tory had deliberately decided to stay with my mother, to try and look after her. Tori's bravery on that day gave us a few more years with Mum, and we are eternally grateful to him for that. And it's a strange thing to say, but Tori is with me. He is with me. I have that sense of him.
Tori Johnson and Katrina Dawson didn't deserve to die. The other 16 hostages didn't deserve the terror they were forced to endure. We owe it to all of them to do whatever it takes to make sure such a crime never happens again in Australia.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.